And we know about the shootings in Australia, anti-Semitic. We all condemn them. I condemn those shootings. I'm sure Kunle does. But I also condemn Netanyahu coming out and blaming Australia's prime minister, saying, what's Maloney, whatever his name is, saying that uh, because they recognize Palestine as a nation, that type of stuff is what causes shooting of Israelis. First of all, recognizing Palestine as a state, if it leads to violence, it's not the that's not what I'm saying is the lot. Even if it does lead to violence, then it's the problem of the people who do the violence because there's nothing ethically wrong with recognizing Palestine as a state. It'll be just like saying, oh, if you recognize the rights of black people, they'll start killing white people. They'll be emboldened. That doesn't mean we don't recognize their right. Those are two separate things. Second of all, we don't know if this was a false flag or not. We're not going to focus on that today. But also, I want to say it's ironic that Netanyahu is saying that recognizing Palestine as a state, calling what's going on in Gaza genocide, that is emboldening terrorism. When in reality, what is emboldening terrorism is the actions of Netanyahu. First of all, before October 7th, he was moving away his defense forces farther south, almost as if he was luring Hamas to attack. That's the first way we can blame him for a lot of the shit that goes on. Second of all, the genocide in Gaza and the war of aggression against Lebanon, Syria, and who's the third? Iran. The war of aggression against them, as well as the continual, which goes on to this day, seizing land from people in the West Bank, which belongs to Palestinians, is the reason that God forbid, because it's not right, but it's the reason you might be seeing terrorist strikes all over the world against people who are Israelis or Jewish people. And once again, we condemn it. But what we're saying is that Netanyahu is the main cause of instability of the nation of Israel. We saw what happened when they were bombed by Iran, after they bombed Iran first. So you go around bombing other people's countries, killing probably, they say it's 70,000, it's more like 600,000 um, Palestinians, putting phones and killing kids in Lebanon with booby trap phones, killing not kids, people with booby trap phones, trying to assassinate leaders all over the Middle East, trying to decapitate Iran. That's the reason you're seeing a jihadist terrorist movement against the nation of Israel and everybody, which is wrong. So what Netanyahu needs to do is stop blaming the president or the prime minister of Australia for the problem that he has created. He doesn't want to sit down for peace treaties. He invited Hamas to come and do peace treaty in Qatar, and then tried to kill them, kill their families. You're frustrating the peace movement. You don't want to work out a two-state solution. Then you want to blame other countries when people who are of Israeli or Jewish descent are killed. No, 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 no. They and we, the world, blame Netanyahu and a lot of those Nazis who are in Israel, especially the Zionists. What are your thoughts, Kunle? Kunle, what are your thoughts? Oh, it looks like Kunle has Kunle, what are your thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Well, no, I'll just give it a minute. It just
oh yeah. So what I was
can
saying
you
was
hear
that
me?
yeah, what I was saying
Okay.
that you heard what I said, right? That it's ironic that he's blaming
Yes, I was. I was about to start. Yeah.
okay, go ahead, go ahead. Yeah. You were
Yeah.
stoned
I
from your
mean,
weed.
yeah. Before I start, so I
Go
mean,
ahead, yeah.
before I start commenting on anything about what happened, the first thing is that as human beings, we shouldn't fall for the bait of seeing the depravity of the actions of this Israeli state and then not showing empathy and becoming the very monsters that disgust us in respect of this incident. And it should be condemned, whether or not it's a false flag or not. Because the killing was indiscriminate. That's as far as I'll go on that. Then when I now
Yeah.
go back into the facts now, the media has focused on because it was a Hanukkah and because but the randomness, they deliberately not said that the 13 other people that were killed, how many of them were Jews? They were not necessarily Jews. It was a
Yeah,
random
but okay, but here's but
attack.
what wasn't random? What wasn't random was that they struck at a Jewish religious thing. They were killing
Yes,
random, but it was targeted because of maybe it was targeted because it was a Jewish religious ceremony or party. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, yeah,
yes, yes. It was targeted because it was a Jewish religious ceremony, but it was not targeted at killing them. It was targeted at causing terror in that area in
yeah,
order
yeah.
to make it appear as if Islamic terror is responsible for the world's problems. It looks far too staged, and there's no reason for any of these of terror groups to want to do anything like this. They have absolutely nothing to gain from this terror attack. The only people that have anything to gain from this terror attack is the state of Israel. That's the first thing I have to say. Nobody,
Yeah.
Iran, nobody has anything to gain from this because all you're doing is saying, and then also it takes away and distracts from the fact that Israel has committed over 780 violations of the ceasefire, and they have killed almost 400 people since the ceasefire in October. And this goes underreported, and also was underreported in the media is the fact that one of the heroes that was that challenged an assailant and took him down was a Muslim from a Muslim family, and his mother was very proud and happy. And depending on where you see it from, it's repeated a lot on Al Jazeera. It's repeated very like once on CNN, but I've not heard it said once on CNN. I've not heard it repeated once on Sky or BBC. I'm not saying it's not said on them. It is. They have mentioned it, but they'll mention it and they'll mention it again for like if you didn't catch it then you're not going to see it because
Yeah.
they're trying to downplay because I do believe that they are trying to still working on this Israel is the victim saga, and it's
Okay, but hold on.
backfired.
We want to get back on track because we want to focus on the ironic thing. And once again, these types of attacks, this we're not this could be a false flag, but if it isn't, let's say it isn't, and they're saying that it's terrorist, what would be the cause of this? Is it that Arabs or people who are Islamic just hate Israelis, or is it that they're angry about the continual nakbas,
Media
the
never
continual,
says.
huh?
The mainstream media will not just say anti-Semitism, anti-Semitism, anti-Semitism. They will never say, "Oh, it's
No, no.
because
Perfect
there's
example. During the
20,000
period of
dead children in Gaza.
for
There's
example,
starving
Kool-Aid,
people."
let me ask you a
They will
question.
never talk about those things.
Kool-Aid, let me ask
Together
you a
with
question.
the attack.
Kool-Aid, when John Brown, you know John Brown, the abolitionist, the white guy, when he started killing Americans, the white guy, or when Nat Turner started killing white people, why was he doing it? I'm not saying he was right, but why was he doing it?
Yeah, I mean
I'm
the
agreeing with you.
motivation is clear.
No, no,
Yes,
no.
I mean
John Brown did it because he said slavery was evil. Nat Turner killed little white kids, which was wrong because he said slavery was wrong. So what I'm saying is that all of these terrorist attacks and things like this are because of U.S. and Israeli imperialism and settling. I'm not justifying it, but I'm just saying that the press never wants to focus on the true. And once again, I'm going to say that Israelis are anti-Semitic because Palestinians are Semitic. Iranians are Semitic. Do you get my point? So not only are they
yeah, and
doing that, they
The West never wants to focus on it.
yeah, they never want to focus on
Do
it.
you know that
And
even when
let's
you
look at
look at
another
World
thing.
War II,
Here's another thing.
even
The
when
guy
you
who
look at
did it,
World War II, they never
yeah,
focus on the reason why the Jews were hated.
yeah. And
They
let's
never
look
focus
at
on the fact that the
uh,
Jews control their politicians as well.
yeah. And here's another thing. The guy claimed affiliation to ISIS or to Islamic State. But at the same time, the U.S. and Israel are recognizing the president of Syria, who was part of that organization before. Also, do you see what I'm saying? This IIS, they keep on strengthening it because there's no reason, there's no way you're going to tell me that Al Sharaa has given up his extremism just because he said I'm sorry that I was a terrorist before. Nobody goes to bed and wakes up one morning and is no longer a terrorist. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of these organizations that they're claiming bombed and this goes to what you're saying, false flags. They said they attacked Australia. These guys are thriving off of the U.S. dollar because the CIA has been pumping money to them for years to destabilize Syria, to destabilize Lebanon, and everything. Then when one of their members comes and shoots people in Australia, all of a sudden you're like, rather than you say, oh, we, these people need to be stopped. How are you going to stop them when you keep funding them to destabilize the countries they come from? What are your thoughts, Kunle? Yeah.
Yeah,
If
I mean,
that,
like I said, because they fund them, that's why they're always able to make sure that these people are able to
yeah,
perform these sort of terrorist actions. Whether they be false flags, as Candace Owen said, because she said that this was going to happen uh,
yeah, I'm wondering
in
about
the
that.
week.
Yeah.
Yes, because she said expect a false flag attack from Israel in the second week of December, and this
Yeah.
post will be here. And she said that in late November. It was quite accurate.
She must have
Then
some people. She must know some people there's some people who work within these organizations that are giving information to people. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Mhm.
You see, my problem is this whoever, whatever the motivations of this father and son to go and do this kind of madness, I do believe that it would have taken some sort of organization to motivate them to do something like that. How can you become radicalized to kill to go out with your son and do something? So I do believe there's something doesn't make sense. What would make you go out with your son and go and kill on behalf of a political cause, innocent blood? It doesn't make any sense. And then we haven't looked into their background. The hero was Syrian. I know these two attackers were Muslim. I don't know whether they're Syrian as well. Syria is under attack by Israel right now, along with Jordan. They've seized 40% of their access to water, and that leader is complaining that Israel is still encroaching. Um, and then Netanyahu is trying to blame Australia for showing sympathy for Gaza because he's angry that Australian people have been marching against him, and he's saying that it's their fault, and that's why there's this anti-Semitism. They keep calling it anti-Semitism,
Yeah.
obviously because it's on a religious holiday. It's an attack on a religious holiday at people who are predominantly from a particular country that is committing all manner of genocides and war crimes. And yes, it is not justified. We should, if the one day that anybody tries to praise this attack, then you've become the very monster that disgusts you. So nobody should be celebrating any kind of these deaths. What upsets us is when they downplay the value of certain human beings against others, and when they manipulate and use tragedies as leverage to commit more evil and more violence and more injustice and risk more wars. And then we now want to know what's going on because there's no such thing as Islamic terror in Europe prior to 1948. And it didn't even start until the 60s. Hezbollah didn't exist until 78. Al Qaeda didn't exist until 82 when America created it. And and these other people didn't exist until the 90s, Hamas. So these are all just resistance groups. Then we had the ISIS that was born of Syria. It had its own roots, as we know, in Lafarge, the French Syrian cement company that was prosecuted. So these things, when we talk about false flags, it's very, very disturbing. And
Yeah.
I do, I would be surprised if it wasn't a false
Yeah.
flag because there's nothing to gain. Even ISIS has nothing to gain from this attack. It
Yeah. I
doesn't
mean,
make any sense.
and at the end of the day, false flag or no false flag, all of this, and I'm not just talking about Israel bombing and provoking people. All of this is caused by U.S. money. Whether or not this Muslim extremist attack was a false flag or not, if it's ISIS or IS or Islamic State, these are all organizations that were created by the CIA to disrupt the Middle East. So that's almost as a de facto false flag because what it is that you create terror organizations the same way that the U.S. helped create the Nazis in Germany, and then when they do bad acts, you blame them. But the blame has to come from who created these organizations. The terrorism that you
Israel
go ahead,
Israel
go ahead.
won't hesitate to kill its own people if it's politically expedient for them
Oh
to.
yeah, they'll do
That's
it.
why they
They'll do
have a
it.
Hannibal directive to kill their own people so they're not taken prisoner. So why wouldn't I be surprised that these false flag attacks at their own sites
Yeah.
are intended to do same?
Personally,
And
I do
then
believe half of these things
deliberately,
are false
Jeff,
flag. Yeah.
they didn't target the Jews deliberately. They were shooting at ordinary Australians on the beach. There's a
And
reason for that. Because if they just attacked just the Jews in the synagogue, that would have been really that would have not really changed any of the public mind. They needed to attack innocent people who are not part of it in order to galvanize support for their cause.
and on the same weekend, Two American soldiers were killed in Syria, and Trump says we're going to retaliate. Then in the U.S., a so-called Afghanistan former Afghani soldier killed two U.S. soldiers, and
And
now
they
the
banned
U.S.
visas.
They banned visas. So all of this looks like a collective
Staged.
activity of false flags to deepen fascism and Nazism around the Western world. What last thoughts, Kunle?
That's precisely what I'm seeing because
Yeah.
all these actions, I mean, you don't need to have half a brain to know that all these people resisting have seen that the West, the world at large, the people of the world now know the truth and we're all behind them. So why would they now need to start committing acts of terror amongst us when we're on your side already?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
social media has made it impossible for mainstream media to hide this, and the world can see. And I don't think it's changed anybody's view. If anything, it's probably angered them even more. And I feel for the victims, but we should feel for all the victims because I mean, Nelson Mandela said, "Until Palestine is free, we are not free," because
That's
Palestine
it.
stands for apartheid and oppression and the culture
Yeah,
of it and the culture of racial supremacy. And as
and
long as
and
Israel, which
specifically
is our
white
headquarters,
supremacy.
stands,
Hmm.
then we are animals to them. We are less than
Hmm.
human.
And
And that's all that matters.
any government which oversees this genocide, and what I mean by overseas it, the U.S. sustains it through money. Any countries that are giving money to Israel, you're also going to have a cancer within your own society because there's no such thing as a social democratic country which is funding genocides in other world parts of the world. So, and if you're not a social democratic society and you're imperialistic like that, it's no surprise that you become fascist because it means that your government is made up of Nazis and terrorists. And it will show, and you see it in America now. That's why you have soldiers on the streets of America, and America is now beginning to override democratic rights of its citizens. You see so much crime, mental health issues, because America functions as a Naziist, fascist, imperialistic country, and that takes a lot of resources and a lot of suppression of freedom and violence from within and from without. Okay, take us out, Conan.
Well, that's always
We,
necessary in
we
order to
don't answer
maintain
this.
them.
Good. Yeah.
That's been necessary because America is run by a very small elite who are very rich and they have to
Yeah.
play that game. That game was what started slavery and allowed the elites to keep their money. And that game has to be played for the oligarchy to survive. And sadly, as we pray for the victims of the Bondi Beach, we pray for the victims of Palestine, the innocent blood of women and children and men that have been spilled in these horrible times. We hope for better times. And from myself and Mustafa, we wish you goodbye, farewell, adieu. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right, so I'll see you at which one? Which was better, 6:15 or 6:30? Yeah.
What time is it now? It's 6:50.